Have you ever had an idea for a project only to spend hours looking for a data set, and when you do find one, it's not totally what you want, and then you would have to spend more hours amending that data set just to get the output that you need? So what if I told you could create your own data set in around 5 to 10 minutes? Well, you can using AI, and I'm going to be using ChatGPT in this example. So let's jump over to my browser and I'll show you how I did it. So I'm going to be using the free version of ChatGPT in this instance, so anybody can give this a go. And the core thing you want to start with whenever you're starting with any data set that you want to create is you want to be able to explain to ChatGPT what business you actually want the data for, and then also what type of data. So in this case, I'm a large owner. No, I'm an owner of a large clothing company, clothing retail company. I can't get my words out. And I need to generate sales data. And that is basically saying I would like clothing data based around sales. So therefore you're putting that in there so ChatGPT knows what it is, the type of data you want. And then in this case, because I'm using one that I've already run just to be able to go through this a lot quicker, I can help you with that. Are you looking for realistic simulated data for analysis, or do you need process actual sales data from your business? In this case, I just want mock data, so I'm not going to be loading in any data for it to be able to create from. But that's an interesting thing that it could do, because maybe you'd be able to use data sets you found, load that in to then be able to generate a new data set from it. Maybe that might be another video. So all it's asking for is, what do I need? So I've asked for it to give me a data set in tabular form. So that means it gives me in a table. And then I want the columns with customer ID, name, city, order ID, item ID, the name, group, and then sales date, and then the quantity of items sold, the cost of items sold, the total sales amount of items sold, and discount amount, if any, on items sold. And that last bit, if any, on items sold, that will mean that then ChatGPT will know, oh, I don't need to apply this to every single line. I'll just apply it randomly, which is exactly what I need. So after running that prompt, it then comes back with an example of what the actual table looks like, and then asks if I would like it in the CSV and what size would I want my table or CSV dataset to be. Here we can just check to see, yeah, customer name, everything looks good, order number, item number, jeans bottoms, t-shirts, all in these things. These all look like they are item groups correctly. And the sales date, quantity, total cost, total sales. Got discount amount everywhere here. Probably going to split them out more over a full data set. And then I've asked ChatGPT, can you create 200 rows of data, and can you include different items in some of the orders, and also include some items and orders that were refunded at a later date too, please? And the reason for this is I need a data set that will give you orders with more than one item type in there. And then also I want to be able to incorporate any refunds that happened at a later date, whole refunds of an order, or even just items in an actual order. So that means it can give me a later date refund, and then I can use that data set for another project I'm working on, and I'll create a video for that next. So I'll run that prompt, and then it comes back saying it was generated a data set with this containing multiple different rows, providing the CSV. So then obviously it gives you the CSV to download here. So if you click on that, so we sorted this, we can now have a look at the data, and we want to see where the refunds are. So there's a refund, and this is the order, and the refund is showing as yes. So that's a refunded order. But what that doesn't do is give you it as an extra line as a refund. Because what I want is to be able to see this line as it is, and then another line for the same order with a minus amount for there for what is the refund amount for this. But I still want to keep the date time as well, and also the sales date needs to be cleaned up. First, let's deal with the refunds. So in this case, can you make all refunds as an extra line with the amount refunded as a minus amount? So it's pretty much just saying, just add an extra line, but make it a minus, and it should match up to whatever that particular refunded line is. So basically we zero each other out, just have a different date. So if we open up this one, and let's just order these again, and we can see here is our line, and we've got a refund, yes, refunded, yes, and then that is the refund, and that's given us exactly what we want. However, what it's done is actually kept the date, so we do have sales date, but the refund needs to be at a later date. So let's go back. What I then asked was, can you make all sales dates for the order ID the same date for each order, but keep the refunded order lines as a later date? and then that should keep that particular order the same date for there, and then give the one where it says it's been refunded, so the minus amounts will then give you a later date. So if you open up that one and sort of send in again, we now need to find this line. So there it is. So this particular order, we got our 3 items, but it's 2 items with 1 refund, same date, and it looks like that's the same with all of these. So that's an order. Yep, that's same date, same date, same date, same date. And then here we got a refund, and this is on order, this one here, and that's a later date, and that's the same date, and then that's the refund line, and that's the refund amount. So it looks like it's sorted out that problem. So as you'll notice in here, we have an issue of, we got quantity here the same for the same product, but the cost is different where it should be matching up. So what we want to do is prompt to say fix that. So this is where I go, can you ensure that the cost per quantity of item ID is the same, i.e. if the cost is 40 for 1 quantity, then 2 quantity will be 80. So therefore it's just applying the same cost per the item, and then it gives you the same amount. So if I open up this one, and then let's look at some orders, and it's with a sweater top. Yeah, sweater tops. It doesn't look like it's fixed the problem because it's still different. So this does happen when you prompt. Sometimes you need to give it another prompt. So let's go back. So now I'm asking the cost per item ID is still random. So basically just explaining that it's still incorrect. Please ensure that the cost is the same per item ID on all orders. So slightly changed the wording, i.e. this item cost is 20 per 1 quantity. So I'm just giving it a bit more of an example to see if that fixes the problem. We open up this one. Where's our sweater top? There it is. And sweater top. There we go. Look, now we're getting the same amount. So let's have a look at another one. Boots, footwear, blouse tops. Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing anyway. Footwear, sandals, sneakers. Here we go. So footwear, sandals is 1 there. And that looks right for what would be 3 times that amount. Let's have a look for any more. Bottom shorts. Yep, there we go. They're all matching up. So now we actually have our costs sorted. The issue now is we have total sales amount is the same as the cost, which is not correct. Now, what would be handy is to know what to apply. So in this case, it'd be good to just put in a set margin. And also I want the margin to play a part when the discount's applied. So really I want the margin to be applied, what the total sales amount is, before the discount. So really I want this to be added onto this and then give you the output. I mean, how this is less. I mean, it could be because you've done it. Actually, it's because it's discounted less. So actually this is the same amount here. So what I want to be able to do is just go, can you add on 30% to the cost amount? So please, can you increase the sales amount to be 30% higher than the cost before discount, and then apply the discount amount to the total sales amount. And that will give us a total that is 30% higher. And then some of the total sales will be less than 30% because a discount's been applied. But it means we can work with something there and then have something to work with when it comes to margin. So if we click on this one, do our descending, and then that looks like it's correct. 30% more, and then 30% with discount. Yeah, so that's around, that's about, yep, it's about right. And then any discount. Although what we notice now is it's changed because we've done the adjustments here. It's a minus amount still on the quantity, but it's because I fixed the cost and I fixed this, it's now showing it as a positive where it needs to be a negative. So now we need to prompt that to be able to just sort out that last bit of issue with the cost and total sales. I'm just asking it refund total cost and sales to be a minus amount, and then prompt that and then open up those changes. So now we've got this. Let's come back here and look and go, yep, that looks good. That's the minus amount there. And let's just double check that we are getting the 30%. So if you do total sales amount, take away total cost, and then let's divide that by total cost, and then we got our 30%, that's correct. And then slight rounding there, and then let's see what happens when we get here. Yeah, so that difference is the 30%. So if we go plus that, we see we got our 30%. So it's worked, and we have a data set to start using for the purpose that you want to do your project. And as you can see, that was nice and quick, just being able to just get what is technically a kind of simplified data set, but it still has quite a lot of information there that you can actually do a lot of analysis with and be able to then play around with to be able to use for maybe building models or something. So just have a play around with ChatGPT, see what you can come up with those prompts. Just be aware that obviously there are limitations with sometimes with the free one, you might max out. So if you you're doing a really complex data set, it's probably better to do that if you use the paid version because you won't hit a limit. But if you do hit a limit, as long as you keep updating it, it shouldn't actually lose the information, but sometimes it can. So just be aware, if you don't keep on top of it and actually keep maintaining it through the prompting process, it will expire and then it will reset everything and lose all the data that it's actually managed to create in the past. So then you have to start all over again. But I'd love to know if there's any data sets that you've set out and created yourself from this video. So let me know in the comments below and I'll show you what I have planned with this data set in my next video. So see you then.